Hey, we're from the St. Croix River Education District. I'm Nick.
I'm Courtney. And I'm Rye.
And in this video, we're talking about informal chats. And just to give context, an informal chat is something that might happen in the hallway or in a corner of the classroom during a corrective sequence. So just as an example, a student might be disruptive and I might have used proximity, just stood closer to them, maybe gave the look. If they keep disrupting, maybe having a loud side conversation, I might prompt the whole class or just prompt that student directly. But if it's all not working, if that less intensive kind of correction isn't working, I might, if I have the capability, like if all students are working independently on a task, so I don't have to be directing everything at the moment, might pull them aside again in kind of the back of the classroom, like, hey, can we talk over here? Or pull them out into the hallway. Some schools I've worked with have like a system where they can kind of quickly request someone to come in and take over the class. But anyway, those are just some logistics to work out. But essentially, you're just having like a brief, like 1-2 minute chat one-on-one with that kid, trying to figure out why the problem is happening and get back on track. If you end up having to do an out of classroom referral, some buildings, what's more common for these chats to occur is after that referral has happened. This is kind of like a relationship check-in and chat. So before the kid comes back to your class, you have a chance to clear the air. Because what happens on the other side is if you don't have that clear the air in that informal chat, student just shows up the next day. You don't know what happened after they left your classroom. And what we know is just that pattern is way more likely to repeat. And I worked with one student who spent almost a whole term avoiding and trying to get out of one class because they just felt like they had a horrible relationship with their teacher and their teacher really hated them. And it took a 3-minute conversation in the hallway just to clear that air and reset. So these things can be really, really powerful. But anyway, we're talking about how you behave during that chat. So these little things you can do to have it be more likely to be successful. And it's really about active listening. So instead of having our mindset be, I want to lecture, I just want to be the only person talking, I just want this information to land into this kid's brain and then have them act this other way. Setting it up so the student actually participates and isn't passive. So if my eyes and my body and my voice are open and involved, like if I'm not crossing my legs behind a desk, putting a lot of barriers between me and the student, just the simple act of like leaning forward and having some eye contact and not glancing over at my computer, just right there, just I'm communicating to them with my nonverbals that I'm invested. Observing their nonverbals and using silence, like allowing pauses. So if I talk, using that wait time and giving the student an opening to jump in, which I'll do right now for my colleagues, if you guys want to jump in with anything.
Yeah, I just liked what you said about like not having those barriers. I've been a part of a couple like restorative circle trainings, and that's just a big piece of that restorative practice, I guess. Also, I wanted to include, like, especially working with those littles, how important it is just to get down at their level. Towering over them makes it more of like an authoritative kind of situation. I think it just opens up that conversation and that comfortability level for when you're at their level.
And that kind of leads into the next tip we have, which is like reflecting what they say. Reflective listening is part of active listening. So your goal here is two things: to actually confirm that you understood anything the student said, and you were accurate in your listening, and to signal to them that you got it. Because I've been in conversations where essentially we're just repeating the same thing over and over again because neither of us have accepted that the other one really gets what we're trying to say. So it does two things. I mean, and we talk about this in another video, but the point here isn't really to be like robotic and just repeat like a parrot exactly what the kid said. Particularly with littles, you're summarizing, you're condensing. They throw a lot at you that's not like ordered or articulated well, and you're kind of framing. So what I heard is XYZ. Sounds like you're feeling angry about something that I said yesterday. Is that right or no? So that's just like a brief example what that can sound like. It gives the kid an out to say like, oh, you didn't really get it. But especially if the kid threw a ton at you and it wasn't articulated in a very ordered way. I mean, legitimately, you're just trying to get a handle on, did I get it right? Did I miss something? Because it can be tough. And using a mix of open and closed questions. This is really important and something I've had some really experienced people kind of hammer into my head. And as I'm talking with students, I start to realize, I'm asking a lot of closed-ended questions, and it just kind of trains the student that all I want to hear from them is yes or no. So mixing it up and saying like, hey, like, what happened in there? Like, that's an open-ended question for one of these chats. Like, instead of just saying like, why were you raising your voice? Like, why would you do that? Putting that onus on them. That's not a close-ended question, but why questions can be perceived as kind of aggressive. I do like the what's more. And the next tip, carefully bringing up incongruities in the student's words or behavior. So this is a delicate balance. Again, we're trying to come alongside and coach this young person to realize that what they're doing needs to be changed. And we're more likely to get traction there if they perceive us as kind of coming alongside and coaching them. So if I'm kind of going full force, opposing forces like, hey, I got to run a class, you got to get your stuff together, you got to change your deal and come back correct tomorrow, and just being extremely upfront and directive, I'm just less likely to have success, because the student is going to feel, especially if they get into the teenage years, like this is just a person, an authority figure that I don't like, I don't agree with, and I just want to oppose them. My goal is to, again, kind of come alongside. So bringing up an incongruity might be like, well, you're telling me that you really, really wanted to try hard and pass this test. And I also heard a couple minutes ago you were talking to me about, you haven't made time to study in the last week or so. Sounds like some things got in the way. Can you help me understand like how that's going? So I'm just gently bringing up two things and giving the student an opportunity to explain. And again, my voice tone and the way I say what I just said is gonna matter, because even that right there could be sounding like, oh, gotcha. It's really not that. It's just, again, kind of pointing out two facts and then gently saying like, hey, like, I don't really get it. Like, help me reconstruct that. And this kid might then explain themselves more clearly.
Yeah, I think having conversations are kind of like an art. Like some people are going to be more natural at it than others. So it's important just to try to, practice in all of your conversations, whether with spouses or your own kids at home. Like some of that will start to come more natural the more that you incorporate it into your teaching.
Yeah, it's a really solid point. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Have a good one.